Here, in the heart of bustling Thameside at Millbank, just a 2-minute walk from the Houses of Parliament, ICI's headquarters has stood for over half a century. During that time, the famous roundel has represented for most people a symbol of quality. Over the last 3 or 4 years, however, various groups within ICI have made a conscious decision to look at their quality in absolute terms. One of those groups is the Chemicals and Polymers Organisation, which was formed from the agricultural, plastics, petrochemicals, fibres and major industrial chemical sectors within ICI. The man who led that excursion into this whole new quality approach was Deputy Chief Executive Ralph Hodge, who looks back at the role the quality process played in moulding the new company.
We had a view that it would actually help with the processes of forming C&P. The difficult concept of trying to get a reasonably uniform new culture. It has clearly helped with that. Attitudes. There's no doubt whatsoever that you can only have one sort of attitude about a genuine quality improvement process. This has tremendously helped in that area. A common language. C&P needed a new language. It began with perhaps 4 originating languages. Some actually might say more than 4. Now, it would be challenging to say that we now only have one language, but we certainly have the language of quality, and that has been a genuine attribute to the formation of C&P.
Wherever you go around C&P Limited these days, certain buzzwords and phrases are likely to crop up with great frequency. Words like the quality process, quality assurance, 5750, total quality, and perhaps above all, customer requirements.
The application of quality brings the quality environment which people want to work in.
Everybody across the 5 shifts is absolutely committed to achieving BS 5750, because I mean obviously it's you're keeping the customer happy, which is keeping us in work.
I do strive to obtain that quality to our customers because they are very important. They are number one.
At the end of the day, the customer will decide exactly what he wants, and if we can't supply it, someone else will.
A popular concept is that high quality can only be achieved on modern plant with the latest computer control. So an unlikely contender for a high quality accolade is this 19th century sodium bicarbonate plant at Winnington. Yet quality has come to Winnington with a vengeance, to the extent where the bicarbonate plant is seeking certification under the Quality Assurance British Standard 5750. How could a plant like this be licked into that kind of shape?
Well, I think the first thing is it certainly isn't easy, but with enough enthusiasm, it's certainly possible to do it, and that's what we're going to do.
The sodium bicarbonate plant is part of the soda ash business based at Winnington in Cheshire. When the management there decided to go for the total quality approach, they were looking for a solution to severe commercial problems.
The soda ash business in the mid-70s and into the early 80s went through some very hard times indeed. Our customers shared many of those hard times with us. It resulted in a major restructuring of our business that was needed in order for the whole of soda ash products to survive, and part of that restructuring led on to some very basic thinking about organisation. Now, very shortly afterwards, we identified quality and the quality process as something which would add considerably further to the prospects of our business in terms of improvement. We needed to make improvements in our operations in the plants, and we certainly needed a much closer approach to our customers than we had had in the past.
The quality approach has brought about a number of changes, including more capital investment, a new warehousing stock rotation system, and a revised labelling system, which gives a great deal of information about the plant conditions at the time of packing an order. The changes have one common goal: to provide consistently high-quality service to the customer. But the quality process has had a marked effect on plant morale as well.
Certainly there's a great deal of change in the people since I first come here. Obviously the investment has done a little bit to help that. They can see a better future for themselves. And obviously with working together, everyone is involved in the one end, and that's giving the customer what he wants. Everyone can see the benefits of doing that. We can see the business picking up because of that.
There's one or two of us that were fortunate to visit one of our customers, which was a biscuit firm in Lancashire, and I was very impressed with that, and it certainly made you aware of what problems you cause them if you send them out to spec material.
Where we've got so far is really just the start of the application of the quality principles. We can go on developing that, but equally a springboard opportunity to launch new products into perhaps a different marketing area than we've been into before, and I think that's typified by All Fresh and Desicarb as two possibles.
I'd echo that. It's going to give us this competitive edge opposite competitors, both in the UK here, where we're up against Eastern and West European competition, and in deep sea markets, where we're up against the major internationals. None of them, to my knowledge, have got BS 5750 or ISO 9002 yet, and we'd like to be out there first with it.
The quality approach has led to a major breakthrough in joint problem solving between C&P Limited and Ciba-Geigy. Ciba-Geigy is a major customer for C&P's phenol, which they use in the manufacture of flame retardant chemicals. They take over 15,000 tonnes a year. They expressed concern at the amount of water contaminant in the phenol, which was causing severe problems.
The problem really fell into two parts. Firstly, the presence of water in the processes using phenol led to a loss of efficiency of that process and had a severe effect on the quality of the finished product. So that had an effect on our profitability. The second one was concerned with the effects of corrosion in our plant. Water in phenol in the process concern produced acidic products. They attacked the materials of construction of the plant, leading to severe corrosion problems, leading to downtime and increased maintenance costs.
Once it became clear that we had a problem, we formed a joint customer action team involving staff from Ciba-Geigy at Trafford Park and from C&P at Billingham. The team quickly discovered that the problem fitted into two parts. The first part concerned the analysis for water in phenol itself. It was discovered that a sample analysed at Billingham and having, say, 100 parts per million of water, when analysed at Trafford Park, was found to have about 140 parts per million of water. Clearly, there was some difference in sampling or methodology that needed to be sorted out. The second part of the problem was that phenol leaving the plant at Billingham with even 100 parts per million of water had a much higher level when offloaded into the raw material storage tank at Trafford Park.
ICI and Ciba-Geigy set about solving the analytical discrepancy with the kind of openness and team approach which is engendered by the quality process.
We organise an exchange of technicians between the two companies so we could compare the instrumentation. And we now have a situation where we both use the same instrument and the same methodology, and consequently the results we achieve are comparable. People are now more aware of the need for quality in everything that we do. And we've also now built up a good relationship with ICI, such that I'm confident that any future problems that may occur will be resolved that more easily.
Well, I think the fact that ourselves and ICI are both embarked upon the same kind of programme of total quality helped enormously. As you've heard Tony say, their programme has a large customer focus. Our own programme seeks to involve everyone through what might be termed the quality chain, supplier, ourselves and our customers. So the fact that ICI are also applying the same kind of methodology, the same kind of techniques that we are, looking for the same kind of way of identifying solutions, looking for the same kind of approach to problem solving, helped enormously.
On this site, DuPont manufacture a non-woven polypropylene fibre product called Typar, and C&P is a major supplier of the polypropylene under its own brand name, Propethene. The Typar plant is highly capital intensive and is vulnerable to expensive downtime if polymer is supplied out of spec. When DuPont announced that they required a change of formulation, it required close cooperation between the two companies.
Well, we really got together with them in the middle of 1987 when they called us in and said, we want to develop a quality approach with you. And so we started off by putting together a quality steering group of senior managers from both companies covering a number of different functions, both the production, the logistics, the sales and marketing, and the technology side. We all came together from both parties and formed this quality steering team to ensure and manage the quality improvement process actually happen. Well, Propethene is an expansionist business. We're going into an expansionist period where there's a lot of growth to go for, and the DuPont business is a golden opportunity to expand. It's already worth £4 million a year of sales to the Propethene business, and we're looking to do better. And if you look at it in terms of the way we are now meeting the customer's requirements, since we've gone into the quality improvement process, we're now meeting the customer's specifications, although those have changed over the last year. We're getting the paperwork right, we're meeting his logistics needs. So we're giving him the service that he requires. And as a result of that, he has now actually said to us, look, we are prepared to offer you extra business to improve your market share at our account. And that, of course, is going to be a great benefit to the bottom line of the Propethene business.
I think we are pleased with the progress we have been making with your company over the past 12 months or so, since we started close cooperation on total quality. And I think we have seen a reduction in cost of quality there in various fields from which I think both companies are going to benefit.
Up to now, the emphasis has been on quality in terms of customers. But now we turn to C&P's suppliers and hear what the future holds for them.
We split our major key suppliers to Hillhouse site into 2 lots and said, come along for a day and we'll make you aware on what's going on. Really the key message on awareness, worth a little aside here, is we are into quality seriously. We need you to understand as a supplier it will impinge on you. You will understand as it unfolds what that really means in terms of the brass tacks, but be aware right now that something's going to happen, and some of it might be quite nasty, some of it might be quite pleasant, but it is going to hit you.
There's an old phrase which gets bandied around which says survival is not compulsory. You don't have to do this kind of thing, but you won't be our supplier.
Most of our suppliers are good suppliers. Don't forget, we're not talking about good and bad here, we're talking about improvement. So we're talking about making good suppliers even better, and in the main, we want to give them that opportunity. So uncompromising is the word for me, not tough.
There's considerable activity going on at the moment, and I think the whole industry is aware of the opportunities for the future and the penalties of failure.
And now for the team at the top. The C&P executive, committed to total quality, are their own corrective action team, which is working on improving its approach to meetings and, as Deputy Chief Executive Ralph Hodge explains, the vital issues of budgeting and the capital programme.
What effect did the quality approach have in those 2 issues? Have you made much progress on them anyway?
Yes, they are 2 key subjects which we have taken down a similar track of a corrective action team. I think we'll actually be running teams there for quite some period of time, because the budget process is one where there's an intense activity over a particular part of the year, and then you're inclined, of course, to get on to other things, and you forget that you all said, well, wasn't that a process we could do better next time? The merit of a correction action team is it does actually take you back to that in a disciplined way. So the whole budget process is one where we want to actually improve the timescales of it. We are concerned that we actually begin next year's budget somewhere about May before we have really got even the first half year's results for the current year. So we want to find ways in which we can actually speed up that process towards doing it over a much more concentrated period a little later in the actual year, where we're actually more in tune with this year's performance in order to help us actually think about the following years. After all, we've got long-term strategies, and therefore the budget process is meant to be a rather more short-term way of looking at the current performance of the business. Capital program, well, there are intense, almost philosophical issues there. One has a capital program, which is a defined amount of money which one plans to spend in the course of the year. But there's a tendency, inevitably, when you actually begin the year, to say, but the year's quite a long time, there'll be an opportunity to pursue some of these items when we're a little bit more certain of what the actual business performance and situation is. And that, through the inevitable processes of the year, quickly catches up with you, and even if not overtakes you, means that far too much of our capital spending is towards the second half of the year. In fact, November can be a very busy time, and that's not a quality process. We feel much more confident. Yes, 2 years ago when I visited Japan, I came back fairly deeply troubled. They were a long way ahead, and a long way ahead to the tune of being able to actually take us down that process that they were involved in, confident that we wouldn't be able to actually mirror them, if not to actually equate with them. I think now we're doing that. I would now visit Japan, as I have, and hold my head reasonably proud in what is a very challenging environment. They've moved on, but we, I think, have, in that 2 years, caught up quite significantly with their processes. Europe, well, 1992 is now firmly ahead of us. The UK, actually, as a supplier to Europe, logistically, sits on the edge of Europe and has quite a high distribution cost, which it has got to be able to be sure it can manage. And it needs some compensating advantage. For me, our quality improvement process is just that. So by inference, I believe we are perhaps just a little ahead of Europe, and we've got to actually be sure we stay ahead of Europe. We need to, because they have the advantage of actually sitting right in the centre of that key market.
So that's where you are now after 2 years. A lot of work gone in, a lot of benefits, it would appear, around for you. What about going back? I mean, could you visualise a situation where you could dump it this afternoon and go back to the way you were pre-2 years ago?
No way. We did tend in the first part of that 2 years to be stressing that this wasn't the flavour of a year, let alone of a month. We've actually been able to drop the need to say that, because it is an irreversible process. So we would not want to go back, but actually, even if we did, we couldn't. And thank goodness for that.
I arrive at exactly the same end point as does Ralph Hodge. It is a desperately important concept for ICI and for C&P. Perhaps, however, my views on quality I have arrived at by a slightly different route. I have to confess that in the early days I was just a little sceptical as to whether this was not another ICI flavour of the month. It looked to me at that stage perhaps a little too philosophical. Now, what has impressed me in the last 2 years is the way in which that has been translated from the philosophical to the practical. And even more importantly, it has been applied right through the organisation so that everybody says, hey, if we get this right, there really is something in it for us in terms of satisfying the customer's needs, and the satisfaction of those needs will roll right through to the bottom line, to profits, to profitability, and to cash flow.
Do you feel strongly that there is a need to keep this quality approach in whatever form very finely tuned to the commercial needs of the company?
Well, I don't think I would use the word commercial. I would talk business needs, quite frankly. We do have a tendency in ICI to have the latest flavour of the month. What is the universal panacea that will solve all our ills? And we've seen various examples of that in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And I was concerned that perhaps in the early days the quality approach might be over-philosophical. Now I don't think that's true, and the film that I've just seen shows quite clearly that people are adopting a very practical approach to satisfying customer needs. As I regularly say, no customer, no ICI. It's as simple as that.
Do you think there is a correlation there between this quality approach and the way things have changed in Japan and the States?
I do think that's right, but I think I would differentiate between the United States and Japan. In the case of the United States, I am conscious of a number of sharp consultants exporting the concept of quality. I am not conscious that that concept has been adopted in the United States by manufacturing industry there, so that the world automatically identifies American products with quality. Perhaps that's unfair, but that's just how it strikes me. Now, Japan's quite different. They, I believe, after the war, decided that the previous reputation they had for imitative, perhaps rather cheap and nasty products was wrong. And they adopted that quality absolutely wholeheartedly, and that is why today you find the shelves in the supermarkets in this country, and in fact throughout the world, full of Japanese goods. And you believe that Japanese goods are largely synonymous with quality. So I think they have been extremely successful in adopting this approach, and it has paid off in the way in which their manufacturing industry has exported to the world.
So what about the future for quality in ICI then? What part do you see it playing in ICI's, I suspect under your reign, very ambitious approach to the future?
It's an absolutely critical part of that vision that I have and that you're suggesting as a company we have to have. But at the moment we are giving tremendous emphasis to it so that people put the extra effort in to really make it happen. Of course, what I want to happen in the future is becomes part of our automatic sense of values. Now, today, the competition is very, very fierce. I believe we can cope with the competition. I really do. I think we've got the people and the skills and the products and the territorial distribution to stay ahead of the game. Now, all the international chemical companies have got strategies. Frankly, they're not very different. We know theirs and they know ours. But what we have to do to win is to do it better. And it's in that concept that quality, in my book, is forever.